Hello, everyone. I'm Jay, the AI Math Guy, and thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel where we reimagine public school education in the age of AI. The new year is coming. In fact, today is December 31st, and I wanted to make a video about a new framework. And I know that sounds really boring, but I promise you it is going to change the way that you learn and teach and look at math education forever. So definitely worth it. Get started. Let's talk about the problem. I call it the losing battle. For a very long time in math education, we valued the students showing us work and getting the right answer. However, in the age of AI, a student having the right work and answer is very low value because they can simply generate it in less than 5 seconds. If I were to imagine myself as a student, I would definitely use a tool. Why? Because number one, it's just way easier and so much more convenient. Number two, I would think to myself, why am I spending so much of my time, life, energy, and stress learning something that a machine can do in 5 seconds? Having to do it by hand or the way that we've been doing it for the longest time would be extremely demotivating. Here's an analogy. It's like forcing someone to scrub their clothes on the washboard down by the river while a brand new washing machine sits in your laundry room. Not allowing students to use a new technology isn't teaching them how to clean. You're just teaching them that you value drudgery over efficiency. And therefore, to keep telling our students, stop using AI and do it by hand the way that we've been doing it forever, truly is a losing battle. And not just a losing battle in theory, but in practice, because I've seen countless teachers, including myself, lose this battle over and over again. We need a new framework for math education in the age of AI, meaning we have to look at math education differently now because we have tools and technology that we've never had before. And to treat math education the way that we've been treating it for hundreds of years really doesn't make sense. Now let's go to number two, the solution. I call it the DNA protocol. D stands for delegate, N stands for navigate, and A stands for ask. And by the way, you are going to listen to this and you're going to have a lot of objections and concerns. And trust me, I will address them, but I just want you to know what the DNA protocol is so that we can get through them, we can understand them, and then I'll go ahead and address the concerns. Now, I do want to say that there is an ideal use case for this framework. The ideal use case for this protocol is that number one, it is optional. And you should never force kids to do this. And they should only do it if they feel like this is the right thing for them. And number two, students should only use it after they have attempted the problem independently and hit a wall. If a student can complete the problem without support, they should. But if they're about to quit because of syntax or the mechanics, then they should turn on the DNA protocol, which I'm going to talk about now. So let's start with D, delegate. Have AI do and generate the work. In other words, prompt the AI to generate the model, solve the equation, or perform the calculation. And if the text is too long, turn on the tutor mode. Most large language models have them. And turn on the tutor mode, and it will chunk the text. So that's delegate. Navigate. In other words, trace the logic step by step. Read and thoroughly understand each step line by line. Don't just look at the final answer, but follow the path and verify that every move that the AI makes from one step to the other makes sense and is a logical step and is true. So that's navigate. Three, ask. In other words, question it until it's crystal clear. The other word that I was going to use was interrogate. I don't know if you like that word better, but if you like that word better, you can just replace question with interrogate because sometimes it does feel like I'm interrogating AI when I'm trying to get clear on the concept, but I call it question here. If a step looks ambiguous or confusing, stop. Do not move on. Prompt the AI, why did you do that? Explain the step and keep asking until the logic is crystal clear in your head. I believe that this protocol is the path forward for math education in the age of AI because it allows for both efficiency and critical thinking. By having students both navigate and ask, we prevent them from becoming just passive learners and ensure that they still remain really active in their own learning. I will address the concerns now. Concern number one, let AI generate math work and answers. That just goes in the face of what we know about math education since, I don't know, for a very long time. Because before we valued work and the solution, because that was the primary way for us to have evidence for student learning or student mastery of a concept. However, now in the age of AI, that is not the case. And let me tell you why. Right now, nobody is really concerned because we don't force high school students to add decimals like 14.593 plus 2.001 by hand anymore. Almost all of us agree that this is low level grunt work and we should use the calculator for this. Now, in the age of AI, the definition of low level work has changed. Here's how I define low level work. I define low level work to be anything that follows a rigid set of steps, an algorithm, moving variables around, isolating x, and factoring quadratics is the new decimal addition. It is algorithmic, tedious, and mechanical. Some other examples of what I would consider low level work. So in algebra, factoring polynomials, solving systems of linear equations, calculus, taking derivatives, computing integrals by hand, statistics, calculating standard deviation. Now, I want to go back to the decimal calculator example. Why are we okay with students using the calculator to solve a decimal problem? The reason being is because if a student spends 20 minutes solving a decimal problem that is only a small part of solving a bigger problem, they won't be able to solve the big problem because they spent all their time solving the decimal problem. And so we decided, okay, just use a calculator for the decimals so that we can get to the important things. And now AI is a new calculator. So let students delegate that part of math education to AI, the mechanical, the rote step by step movement, getting to a conclusion or the solution. We aren't preventing them from thinking. We're actually giving them more brain space to do higher level thinking, such as defending and critiquing their reasoning, finding errors in logic, and seeing the solution in the context of the real world or the problem. It's just the definition of low level work has changed. And the calculator now, called AI, now has expanded in its scope and its ability to do rote and mechanical calculations, step by step work. And therefore, math education should also then adopt and change and evolve based on this new technological development. Concern number two, doesn't AI kill critical thinking? You've probably seen the headlines. Studies show using ChatGPT makes students perform worse, or AI causes critical thinking skills to atrophy, and students are just becoming dumber or whatever. And those studies are absolutely correct. But really, you have to look at how those students in those studies were using the AI. They were using it as answer vending machines. They just delegated the work, accepted the output blindly, and turned their brains off. That's called passive reliance. And yes, it makes you and the people who use AI this way really dumber. However, the studies also show that performance and retention skyrocket when humans audit and judge and critically think about the work generated by AI. So, does AI kill critical thinking? Yes, if you use it as an answer vending machine. But if you use it correctly, it will only grow your critical thinking. Concern number three, but what about the purists? And this is a more subtle concern. I don't think a ton of people have this concern, but I still decided to include it in here. You'll hear from software engineers who just love to code by hand, line by line, letter by letter, or the mathematicians who love the chalk dust. They argue that it is an art to manual calculation, a beauty in the struggle, and that we're robbing students of that joy. They're right. there is beauty in it. Just like there is beauty in knitting sweater by hand, just like there is beauty in developing film in a dark room, beauty in driving a car with manual transmission. But we don't force everyone to knit their own clothes before they're allowed to wear a shirt. We need to distinguish math as a hobby and math as a tool. The hobbyists or the purists, they do the math by hand. And for them, that's the point. The joy comes from the manual execution. And these people are the enthusiasts, the future theoretical mathematicians. And we should absolutely encourage this as a passion and as a hobby. However, most of us, probably 99% of the population, fall under the professional or the user category. For us, getting to the result is the point. The math is just a tool to solve a problem, whether it's climate change, engineering, or economics. It's a tool, not an end in and of itself. So, yes, we can still go through the proofs step by step to show the beauty of math. However, let's not have our students drive stick shift, bumper to bumper traffic just to satisfy our own sense of nostalgia. Now, that was straight from AI, just letting you know, but I like that sentence. Now, the ultimate value of the DNA protocol is that it prepares students for the real world and the modern workforce. So, by practicing step number two, navigate, and step number three, ask, students are building, in my opinion, the two most valuable skills of the 21st century when it comes to AI. Skill number one, judgment, being the final arbiter. In an age where AI can generate infinite content, code, and math, the value of creation is not very high. However, the value of curating has skyrocketed. The navigate step teaches students that they cannot be passive consumers. They must be the final arbiters. So let me explain. In today's real world, before AI came along, the junior intern was the one who did the grunt work of actually coding. And the senior manager or the senior engineer was the one who looks at it, approves the code, and makes sure that it was good. AI now is that junior intern. AI can write the code, generate content really well. And so now the student has to become like the senior engineer who looks at the code or the math or the content that's generated and is the one who decides which one should be kept, discarded, maybe used for later. So that judgment requires high level of critical thinking. So in the workforce, you're not paid to write the code anymore or generate content or generate the math. You are paid to know if the content or the code is safe to deploy or useful or valuable. You are paid for your taste, your ethics, and your logic. Therefore, a student who blindly trusts the machine is a liability and will not be very valuable in the workforce. However, if they continue to practice their judgment through step two, the navigate step, their judgment through critical thinking will continue to grow and will become very valuable in the workforce. Skill number two, velocity. It is 10 times faster to get to domain expertise. Now, this is referring to the step three of DNA protocol, the ask step, where you continue to ask AI to get crystal clarity on what you think and what the AI is trying to say. So, in the world before AI, domain expertise was a very slow climb. It meant years of universities, sitting in lecture halls, and reading dense textbooks. Knowledge was a one way street. For example, if you read a paragraph you didn't understand, good luck. If your professor moved too fast, you are left behind. However, in the age of AI, learning now is a two-way conversation. With AI, you have a personal tutor with infinite patience and almost nearly infinite knowledge. You can keep asking the same question over and over again until it becomes crystal clear in your mind. You can ask it for an analogy. You can ask it to explain it to a 5-year-old, then a 10-year-old, then an engineer, then a PhD scholar. The result is velocity. See, if a student develops the agency to relentlessly ask why until the concept is crystal clear, They will get to domain expertise in any field faster than ever before. Part 5. Conclusion. Relevance or Relic. So public schools and policymakers now have a choice to make. We can keep making our kids wash their clothes by hand while the washing machine sits right there in the corner. But if we do that, we should not be surprised when they end up hating school. And students know when their time is being wasted and they resent it. Or this new framework can be a start to something new. If we adopt the DNA protocol, we send a powerful message to our students. We tell them public schools are relevant. We prove that we are keeping up with the times rather than fighting against them. We prove that we're preparing them for their reality, not clinging to our nostalgia. We prove that this institution is an incubator for the future, not a relic of the past. Come on, people. Let's reimagine public school education, especially math education in the age of AI, together. I do want to do a quick shout out to Dr. Beth Fisher and also Ted Dintersmith for giving me ideas to write this framework. Thank you for the work that you do. I get to stand on the shoulders of giants, and I truly appreciate the work that you guys do. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you can please click that subscribe button, trying to get to 100 subscribers. I'd appreciate that very much. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.